Yo, what's up, nerds? It's MTG Man, and today I'm going to be bringing you another deck to the future. Today we're talking about Kellan the Kid. So he's a band 3/3, flying lifelink. Whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, you can cast a permanent spell with equal or lesser mana value from your hand without paying its mana cost. If you don't, you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. So, because the deck builder I use doesn't have any of the new plot cards, and I know this is partially part of this ability is supposed to be for plot cards, we're just gonna call those an upgrade when they come out, and I'll redo this deck list, but with plot cards. But in the meantime, there's plenty of good cards we can use for this deck, so let's just get into it. So budget-wise, this is like an okay budget, about $100. However, you could probably change around the printings, make it a little bit cheaper, whatever. So we're gonna use a lot of adventures. Kellan is from fuck, why can't I think of the plane now? God. Oh, I feel so stupid. We were literally just there. He's from Eldraine, so adventures are part of his whole thing. All the other Kellan cards up until now have had an adventure, so it just kind of makes sense. So Edgewall Innkeeper, whenever we cast a creature spell that has an adventure, we get to draw a card. This will help us keep our hand full. If you don't know how adventures work, you can cast them for their adventure section, which is the little box in the left corner. And then they go into exile, and then you can cast them from exile for their regular cost. So you could cast Bubble Up, and then you can cast Aquatic Alchemist for 2, and then you'll be able to get a permanent with mana value 2 or less from your hand onto the battlefield, or you can play an extra land with Kellan. That's basically how the adventure part's going to work. So when we cast Aquatic Alchemist, Innkeeper will trigger, we draw a card, blah, blah, blah. That's just how all that works. Another ability we're going to be using is Discover. So discovering exiles cards from the top of your library until you find a non-land card with mana value X or less. And we'll get into cards that have an actual discover cost. So this one just gets bigger with the more creatures you have, or as you put more creatures out, and then you'll discover equal to its toughness. So if you get discover 5, you can find a card that has mana value 5 or less, then you'll be able to cast it without paying its mana cost. And because you cast it from exile, Kellan will trigger and you'll get something for free. Just continuing on, a lot of the adventure cards, we want small helpful abilities, so things like countering spells. Sisterhood of Karn is just going to get really big if we keep casting spells from exile. Brazen Borrower is kind of like removal for a turn. Pretty good adventure. Gorian is going to copy our adventure spells, so that's just pretty solid. Sentinel of Lost Lore will get back cards that we need that have adventures, or it'll exile an opponent's graveyard. Shardless Agent, so Cascade. We cascade until we find a card that costs less, so in this case 2. And then we get to cast it for free, so we can then cast another card from our hand with Kellan for free. The 13th Doctor, since we're going to be casting spells from places other than our hand, we get to put a +1/+1 counter on target creature, and she'll untap creatures with counters on them. Vega will let us draw a card whenever we cast a spell from anywhere other than our hand. So our cascading, our discovering, our adventures, our foretells. We can get to any foretell cards yet, but we'll get there. Blessed Hippogriff. The adventure, just giving something indestructible, is helpful to avoid board wipes. Tail the Suspect on Kellan is pretty good, getting to play an additional land. He can also destroy artifacts, which is solid. I don't know how often you'll actually be playing Tempest Heart, but a 2-mana draw 2 discard 2 isn't that great or that terrible. It just helps you cycle through your deck. Twining Twins, again, it's a flicker. It's a good little ability. Plus, you'll be able to cast it and get cards off it with Kellan. Plant Beans is just extra lands. Ellie and Allen can exile a creature card from your graveyard and discover X, where X is the mana value. This could be an alternate commander as well. However, I don't like it doesn't fit as well as Kellan does. And if you'll notice, a lot of the cards with adventures cost like 4, 5, 6 mana. So being able to discover 4, 5, 6, it's gonna be pretty solid. Illithid Harvester, so turning things face down into tutus is kind of like a board wipe in this deck, since we didn't really run too many board wipes. Entry Denied's kind of removal. Ethereal Valkyrie, um, so you get to draw a card, exile a card from your hand, and you can cast it on a later turn, but its mana cost is reduced by 2. Just another way to cast things from exile. Pegasus Guardian has a good adventure. Stormkeld Vanguard basically has Naturalize as an adventure. Sweet Gum Recluse is mostly here for the Cascade. Beanstalk Giant ramps, and again, the adventure. Realm Cloak Giant is just another board wipe option, and we can cast it off the adventure. Sage from Beyond, or of the Beyond, is going to let us cast our spells for cheaper, which is always going to be a positive. Tlin Collie Hunter will let us get a creature that we adventured for free once each turn. So that's pretty solid. And then Either Sworn Sphinx, Cascading is good, and then Affinity for Artifacts is going to make this a lot cheaper. We don't really have that many artifacts. We have like 14, I think, because this deck plays a good number of mana rocks. Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, Azorius Signet, Felwar Stone. Lucky Clover is going to copy our adventures, so that's just pretty solid. Marble Diamond, Mind Stone, Moss Diamond, Selesnya Signet, Simic Signet, Sky Diamond, Talisman of Curiosity, Talisman of Progress, Talisman of Unity. Monster Manual has a solid adventure, and being able to cheat out our creatures is going to be good, especially because some of them cost so much. Sure, it doesn't count as casting them from exile, but it's cheating in good creatures. Chimney the Inner Sun definitely hurts the budget at almost $20, but being able to discover 5 each turn is just really solid, and then keeping our spells uncounterable is also nice. Swords to Plowshares is removal, Impulse to find cards. Sajiri's Shelter counts towards the land count, and just giving something protection can be really nice, because if Kellan isn't out, sometimes the deck is moving pretty slow. Surge of Brilliance, draw a card for each spell that you've cast this turn from anywhere other than your hand. This is going to be a lot stronger when Plot is a thing, because Plot, you just get to cast the spells from free, or for free, after you've plotted them. So that's going to make this spell a lot stronger once we add those cards into the deck, but it's still pretty good, even if you can just foretell like 2 cards, or cascade a couple cards, or discover a couple cards, whatever. It could still draw you like 2-3 cards. Cosmic Intervention, if a spell or if a permanent you control would be put into a graveyard, you can exile it instead. So it's going to keep your board alive if you have to block something lethal, whatever. Forceful Denial is mostly here for Cascade. Hurl into History, mostly here for Discover. Contest of Claws, so target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to another target creature, and then if excess damage was dealt, you discover X. There is a good amount of big creatures in this deck, so you're going to be hitting over a good chunk of the time. Nature's Lore and Rampant Growth are ramp. See the Truth, so you look at the top 3 and put 1 in your hand, but if you've cast a spell from anywhere other in your hand, so if you've cascaded a spell, if you've discovered a spell, if you've foretelled a spell, whatever, if you cast a spell from somewhere else, you get to put all 3 in hand instead, so it's a 2-mana draw 3. Raven Form is removal, and you can foretell it. Survival Cache you can cast from exile without paying its mana cost because of Rebound, and a 3-mana gain 4 life, draw 2, even if it's broken up, is still pretty solid. Windfall to refill the hand, because that is going to be a struggle with this deck. Tales of the Ancestors, also to refill the hand and foretell. Doomscar, you can foretell it, and it's a board wipe. A lot of times we just want to be able to keep casting those spells from exile. Alrund's Epiphany is an extra turn spell, and you can foretell, so just solid. Amanatu's Augury, 8 mana is a lot to get to. However, you exile the top 8, and then you can cast a spell of each type. So if you cast 4 spells here, that's another 4 cards you can get out of your hand with Kellan. So it's pretty solid. Witness Protection is removal, super cheap, super... Witness Protection is one of my favorite cards of all time, because I just think it's funny, but a 1 mana turn anything permanently into a 1/1 and it loses all abilities is really strong. Virtue of Loyalty, It can create a body if you need it, and it can pump your board. So it's just kind of solid all around. Virtue of Strength. It can get you back a creature or land that you need. Um, and then tapping basics for mana. I think the deck runs like 15 basics, so this can triple up your mana from time to time. Lands wise, we have Command Tower, Edgewall Inn to get back an adventure, Flooded Grove, Forests, Glacial Fortress, Hidden Cataract. So you can discover off of some of the caves. So we're going to be running the hidden caves, the ones that discover. Hinterland Harbor. I do like that this is just Far Harbor from Fallout. I didn't realize that at first look. It's pretty cool. Islands, Mosswort Bridge, you can cast that spell off of the Hideaway, and that's another spell that'll be counted as casting from exile. Plains, Port Town, Prairie Stream, Seaside Citadel, Temple of Mystery, Vine Glimmer Snarl, Waterlogged Grove, and Yavimaya Coast. The mana value is a little bit high, however, hopefully you'll be able to cast enough from not your hand for it to be okay. Playing a little test hand, Temple of Mystery, we'd scry, keep the command tower on top, move to turn 2, play the command tower for turn. I would just run out Marble Diamond because I don't feel like searching with Rampant Growth. Probably play a Plains for turn. Do Beanstalk Giant so that we can search for a land. I believe it goes to the battlefield. We're just gonna choose an island. I don't know why we would, but so you just put it onto the battlefield. Never mind. We wouldn't search for an island. We would search for a forest. My bad. We would move that to the battlefield. Shuffle. Play a forest for turn. Tap Forest of Marble Diamond. Rampant Growth. Search with Rampant Growth. I guess just find a Plains. No, I'm not really going to look too far into it this time. And then Plains enters tapped. So at this point, we would play Hidden Cataract tap for turn. I think it would probably be best to run out Kellan. We're just going to pretend Kellan's there. And then suspend Tale of the Ancestors. Move into the next turn. I guess cast the Beanstalk Giant from exile. It's a 6/6, and because of Kellan, we'll get to play Chimley the Inner Sun. At the beginning of our end step, we'll discover 5. First card we found is a Sky Diamond, so we'll be able to play Hypnotic Sprite for free. Guess play a Yavimaya Coast for turn. Since we have 0 cards in our hand, we will play Tales from the Ancestors, and that'll draw us up to 6. We're just going to assume some opponent has 6. We won't get Kellan's trigger because I think that would activate before we draw, so that doesn't really matter too much. We've already played a land for turn. I think we would go Contest of Claws. So Beanstalk Giant will deal 7 damage to something, and then we discover equal to the excess, so we're going to say we discovered 4. So that'll be a Moss Diamond that enters tapped. I guess we would foretell Cosmic Intervention, move to end step, discover 5 with Chimley, so we get Tempest Heart, and because we played Tempest Heart from exile, we would get to play an island with Kellan, move to turn 6, and more or less at this point, you have a really commanding board state. You can bring things back with Cosmic Intervention. You're getting that free cast off of Chimley. You could probably play Twinkle Hunter to start casting adventure creatures from exile for free. You could run out Ellie and Alan and just start getting rid of... Well, actually, there aren't any creatures in the graveyard, so that wouldn't do anything yet, but you basically just have a commanding board presence. You could discover with Hidden Cataract. And yeah, at that point, it's just accruing more and more value. So that's how I think the deck would work. Let me know what y'all are thinking. I think this deck will definitely be better when we add plot cards, but even now, it seems pretty consistent. What are you thinking of Thunder Junction as a set? How do you think Kellan the Kid is as a commander? Do you like him as a character? I don't really like having the same character like four sets in a row, but then again, Chandra used to be everywhere, so that's not really anything. Or Chandra used to be everywhere, so it's not like anything new. And I'll see you in the next one.